Solarstone proudly presents Pure Trance Radio.
Hello ladies and gents, this is Solarstone. Welcome to episode 114 of Pure Trance Radio. And today's show is a special edition celebrating 25 years of the legendary Bonzai music. And I've got M.I.K.E from Bonzai here with me on Skype, and we've just been talking about, the last 25 years, and I asked M.I.K.E to come up with 13 of his favourite tracks from the last 25 years. So M.I.K.E, the history of Bonzai is slightly complicated for me. I know that it was formed by Fly, correct, back in 1992?
Yeah, that's correct.
So what was your relationship with him at the time?
At the time, I was actually working for the distribution company that was distributing the CDs and the vinyls, News in Belgium.
Uh-huh.
And we got acquainted, and I had to help out with the first CD release also.
Was that the first compilation, right?
The very first compilation, yeah. And also the very first maxi CD back then.
1993?
That was 1993, yeah. And then later on, I actually moved on and went to work for a different company called Antler Subway.
Mm-hmm.
And I met Fly there again because he was also passing there because he was making his artwork over there.
Uh-huh.
And you get to talk with each other, and he was also seeing what I was doing, and he got interested in my work. And that's how a few years later I got involved and started to work for Bonzai.
So at what point, because there's you, there's Fly, there's Yves Deruyter and Laurent.
Those four people are the people that restarted in 2003 with Banshee Works, the new company, after we had to stop the previous one.
So Banshee Works is kind of like the parent company to the whole thing.
That's currently the parent company to the whole thing. Yeah.
But Bonzai, the label, that was there at the very, very beginning back in...
That was already there in the very beginning. It started originally with 3 labels, and this was the most successful one because I think it was the third release that gave an instant success here in Belgium because Bonzai had a completely different sound than anything else. Completely different roots than what many people know probably, because a lot of people know Bonzai only as a trance label.
Mm-hmm.
But the first 3 years till about the end of 1995 was actually quite, I would rather describe it as hard dance right now.
Because they like it hard in Germany, don't they?
140 BPM.
Yeah.
And that is how that part started, but that wasn't really the kind of music that Fly himself liked so much. He was more into trance. There was the German trance scene, the progressive scene from the UK coming up, and that's how he picked up on that as a DJ as well. And that's how the trance story started.
You're very kind of like behind the scenes, but Fly is even more kind of sort of secret and behind the scenes, isn't he? He's kind of like, he's like in the background making things happen, but he doesn't really kind of have much of a public persona, I don't think, as far as Bonzai goes.
We both are together Bonzai All-Stars, so we do DJ from time to time on bigger events like Tomorrowland, for example, on our own stage, our own event, which we had last weekend as well.
How was it? How was it last weekend?
We had 7,000 mad ravers in 2 rooms, everybody going completely nuts. You should actually ask John Double Fleming, because he was there playing as well.
I know he was going to be there.
Yeah, he was fairly impressed, because he said, this is like a flashback to the way it used to be, and he was quite surprised how today that's still possible to get an atmosphere and the amount of people like that.
Well, talking about going back in time, let's have a talk about the first track that you've picked, because this show is basically about we've actually got 13 tracks, the 13 most kind of your favourite tracks from the whole Bonzai back catalogue.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the first track. This is the Guy Barone mix of Universal Nation by Push. What year did it originally come out?
I think it was 1995, if I'm not mistaken. Mike walked into the office with a DAT tape and he was playing a track to us. It was actually the B-side of Universal Nation. But for him, it was the A-side. And everybody loved it in the beginning. Oh yeah, that's the track we want to play. It was a little bit of new wavy soundish.
Yeah.
And we said, no. The A-side is the track. The Universal Nation one is the one you gotta play.
So what was the B-side called? Strange World?
Prisma.
Oh, okay.
Even in the beginning, all the Belgian DJs, they were all playing the B-side until 6 months later, Paul van Dijk picked it up at Love Parade.
Yeah.
And then it was an instant boom and success in Germany. We had the Du Monde remix, which was making a big difference over there.
Yeah.
And that's how slowly the success story of Push started.
This remix from Guy Barone is really exceptional. I mean, even Sasha played this.
Yes, which was very nice and very surprising. And it's not easy to make a really good version of Universal Nation. I mean, timeless classics are always very difficult to remix. So yeah, quite a stunning job here from Guy.
It is. Okay, check this out, guys. This is Push Universal Nation, Guy Barone on the mix.
Pure Trance Radio.
also a producer?
Sometimes.
Well, yeah, only sometimes. One half of Antidote together with Laurent Airwave, right?
That's right.
How does that work when you're in the studio together?
Oh, well, it's been a while that we've been doing something new together. What we recently did a remix on Airwave's Lightspeed, which was one of his famous B-sides.
Yeah.
Well, Antidote is a different approach musically, different beats, different sounds.
Yeah.
Some loops, some ideas from other records, and we put these things together and brew something new out of it.
It's still very progressive, though. I mean, I think you're really a lover of the progressive side of things, right?
Always have been, actually. Always been a huge Global Underground fan myself, for example. Sasha, Digweed.
Me too.
Always been very much into that. Yeah. And your stuff also, your old stuff on Hooch Tunes even.
Yeah, well, I suppose you would call that progressive now, wouldn't you? Mind you, they do say these days anything that's slower than like 135, they call it progressive, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Well, while we're on the subject of Antidote, this next one, this is your Antidote mix of Lightspeed from Airwave. Mm-hmm. I mean, I love Airwave. You know, I don't think he's ever made a track I don't like, and that's probably why we've got 3 tracks from Airwave in the show today.
Indeed, yep.
Okay, guys, this is the next one. This is Antidote mix of Lightspeed from Airwave, and this is part of the Bonzai 25-year compilation special, right?
Yes, that's correct. So that's part of CD 3 and 4 of our compilation, which are...
How many CDs are there?
It's a 4 CD compilation.
Wow, I mean, there's not many labels who could do that.
No, but if you know how big our catalog is, you would understand.
I know, it's like thousands of records, right?
It's 25,000 tracks.
Okay, guys, here's one of those 25,000 tracks. So that was the Antidote mix of Lightspeed from Airwave. Next up, something quite interesting. This is something from Tiesto. How many Tiesto tracks do you have in your that you own the rights to? Is it just this one, or are there others?
Well, The Tube is actually the very, very first Tiesto single that was released on our Ecstasy label in the 90s. We do have other tracks from Tiesto, but those are in a different genre of music because a lot of people never really knew that he was also a hardcore producer. So on our old Bonzai Jumps label, we have several hardcore tracks under the artist name DJ Michael.
Any plans to re-release any of those with a remix?
Probably not, no.
No, do it. You should do it, man. That would really... I'm sure he'd really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Why did you reach out to Matan Caspi to do the mix of this in particular?
Oh, well, for the 25 years Bonzai concept, we just sent out an email to all the artists and we said, like, we'd like you to remix one of our old classics, but you can choose yourself which one you would like to do. And Matan handpicked this one.
Yeah, this was a massive track for me in my open to close sets last year. This is the Matan Caspi mix of The Tube by the one and only DJ Tiesto.
Pure Trance Radio with Solarstone.
So I wanted to say to you, you're one of the guys responsible for signing and releasing some of the biggest tracks in trance history. Tracks like Meter at the Love Parade, Café Del Mar. Mm-hmm. What to you is the key ingredient for a brilliant trance record?
Oh, that's a difficult one.
I know,
it
right?
needs to be, I think it needs to be pure. That's a...
It's true, you're right.
a very good description, I think. Pure, It needs to have a certain build-up, sound, and emotion. It needs to be really heavily loaded. Needs to build up to this high point. Doesn't have to be hard or soft. It can be anything. It just needs to be, real in-depth music made from the heart, not with the mind.
Are you a fan of just sticking to the elements of trance rather than bringing in elements from other styles?
No, it can be elements from other styles as well. I mean, I've always been a big fan of real progressive house or the very early progressive sounds, like labels, for example, from the UK, Limbo, 23rd Precinct.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, that's also progressive, but that was way before trance as a genre really existed.
Well, there's really the kind of the line that divides progressive house and progressive trance. It's kind of very, very movable and flexible. I mean, sometimes
it is movable. Yeah, definitely.
It's funny because the word progressive has always been kind of a bit of a dirty word.
Trance has been a dirty word as well in the past. I remember end of the 90s.
Yeah.
Everybody was a bit tired of trance as well because it was also always the same. It was very repetitive. That was the progressive sound of the beginning.
You've stuck with this for 25 years, and to be honest with you, you are one of two people who I think have made the biggest difference in this industry. There's you and Arnie from Black Hole, Between the two of you, I think you're largely responsible for the trance scene as it currently... Don't tell me you don't like Arnie.
No, we've worked together with everybody. I mean, not just Arnie. I mean, Armin, he used to phone me every couple of weeks, like, do you got some new tracks for my new compilation? You got something exclusive to play?
Yeah.
Chesto was coming into the store because he was only living half an hour away from the shop. So a lot of people came in all the time.
I guess Chesto doesn't pop in very often anymore. He lives in LA now, doesn't
he? Not so much, no.
Okay, next up, we've actually got something under your Antidote alias. This is the stuff you produced together with Laurent. This is What Time Is Love. This has got something to do with the KLF track.
Exactly.
Did you have to clear this, or did they never find out?
They never found out.
Oh, shit.
I coincidentally ran into the sample parts online, and that gave me an idea to make this, and it was actually made here in my home in less than 3 hours.
Really? Oh, well, I mean, the original is one of my favourites, but I absolutely love this new mix from Stan Kolev. It's not a name I'm particularly familiar with.
Actually, Stan Kolev is the partner in crime from Matan Caspi, because they run together their own label called Outer Limits Recordings. And Stan is actually getting a lot of support by guys like Carl Cox, for example.
That's why this has got a sort of a bit of a techno-y feel to it.
Exactly.
Okay, this is track number 4. This is Stan Kolev mix of What Time Is Love by Antidote. Okay, this is Pure Trance Radio, the Bonzai 25 special. Next up, I've got 2 tracks from Airwave, one after the other. He's an interesting guy.
Definitely.
What's your relationship like with him? How often do you see him?
I speak to him nearly daily. And I think I've been his, his right hand or something musically.
Yeah.
Since the very first day he was making music when he became an artist with us. He was just 18 years old with a DAT tape with, 10, 15 tracks. And they were all good, all of them. And they were made on this small mixer, 6 tracks on the headphones, everything manually programmed in Cakewalk. Unbelievable, really, how he did all of that.
He's such I said before, he's such a prolific producer. I mean, he just seems to, I don't know how he does it, how he manages to produce so much music, because it's not just, Airwave isn't the only alias he uses on your labels. He's got countless Is Green Martian one of his names?
The Green Martian is one of his as well. Planisphere also, Velvet Girl, for example, as well.
Yeah, wow.
I think he had about 30 or 40 aliases, just like M.I.K.E used to have back then in the day as well. That was like every project had its own sound.
Yeah, that's right.
Its own way of making tracks, sounds, structure, sometimes more techno, sometimes a little harder, sometimes a bit more progressive. So every track had its own direction.
This is actually going back to 1999 on Bonzai. This is the original version of Above the Sky from Airwave. What an amazing track, right?
Yeah, one of his very best, I think. And you have to know all of these tracks, they're all made in such a short time. They're, like I said earlier, very, very pure music. That's really music from the heart.
Okay, guys, this is the original version of Above the Sky from the one and only Airwave.
Silence covered the sky.
So that was Above the Sky from Airwave. Next up we got another one from Airwave. This is the Michael Dow mix of Venus of My Dreams. There have been so many tracks from Airwave over the years. How the hell do you manage to choose to narrow it down to just, well, this is the third of three. How do you manage to narrow it down to just those? Did you just like put all the names into a hat and pick one out?
Well, actually, this remix came in out of the blue via Laurent himself. And we have this already in the drawer for about 5 years.
You're kidding me, really?
No, I'm not kidding.
So this is you haven't changed it or anything? This is...
No, we haven't changed anything. We just kept various remixes that came in throughout the years for our 25 years project. So some are a bit older, already made a couple of years ago.
It sounds so current.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, this is Michael Dow on the mix of Venus of My Dreams, taken from the Bonzai 25 compilation by Airwave. So this is the Pure Trance Bonzai special with M.I.K.E from Bonzai here. What interests have you got apart from music? You can't just spend all of your time in the office. What else do you like to do? Are you a good cook?
No, my wife is a good cook.
Yeah.
And I have 2 kids, so that also requires my attention and the necessary time, of course.
Tell me about it.
And definitely music is still also a hobby because I still listen to music, obviously. And beyond that, in my free time, I'm actually a Lego collector.
Are you?
Yes, I am.
Don't you get really annoyed how Americans, they refer to individual pieces of Lego as Legos, and they say, I'm going to play with my Legos with an S on the end?
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I have.
You don't say that, right? You don't say...
No, I don't.
The plural of Lego is Lego. Can we just agree on that now?
Yeah, definitely.
So this next one, this is an amazing track. I remember hearing this first, my God, when I was... how old must I have been? Like 20?
Mm-hmm.
The House of House by Cherrymoon Trax. Who's the guy behind this? Is this actually Mike?
No, the House of House is made by 3 guys. One is Yves Deruyter.
Oh.
Somebody we know.
Yeah.
Also Frankie Kluk, who was the second DJ in the Cherrymoon Club. Mm-hmm. And the third guy was Axel Stephenson, the guy who also co-wrote the first Rebirth.
Hang on, did you say the third DJ in the Cherrymoon Club?
Yeah, the Cherrymoon Club in Belgium. That's what the track was made for originally.
Is that doesn't still exist? It still exists, does it?
The club itself doesn't exist anymore, but the name lives on through about 4 to 5 parties a year.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'd love to go to one of those. I love the sample in this track, the House of, where he's just actually repeated the same bit, and it doesn't even mean anything, does it? The House of House, or does it?
Well, if you go back to those days, and maybe even a few years earlier, over here in Belgium, and maybe also in the UK, even stuff like 2 Unlimited was called house.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, everything was house. It was just anything anything dance was house music. If you say that now, it's like, oh, that's not right.
Yeah, well, there's loads of genre. There's the genre police out there, isn't there, who like to separate everything.
Yeah, definitely.
But this is one of those tracks to me. Let's just say, if you're under the influence of something when you're in a club, this is one of those tracks that does it every single time.
Yep, it does. Original, remix, doesn't matter. It's always working.
And you said to Mike, do you want to remix something from the back catalogue? And he said this?
He said this, yeah. He made that about, I don't know, something like 8-9 months ago.
I thought you were going to say 8 or 9 years ago then.
No. 8 or 9 months ago this was done, and yeah, we only could release it now, of course, because 25 years concept was all put together like that.
Well, Mike is definitely one of my favourite producers as well. This is the Mike Push mix of the House of House from Cherrymoon Trax.
House. rebel, without a pause, I'm lowering my level. Yes, the rhythm's a rebel, without a pause, I'm lowering my level. Yes, the rhythm's a rebel, without a pause, I'm lowering my level. Yes, the rhythm's a rebel, without a pause, I'm lowering my level. Yes, the rhythm's a rebel, without a pause, I'm lowering my level. Yes, the rhythm's a rebel, without a pause, I'm lowering my level. Yes, the rhythm's a rebel, without a pause, I'm lowering my level.
Next up we got something from Yves Deruyter. This is one of the guys who you've been working with for, well, since when? Since 2003 or going back even further?
Since 1992 already. He was also a client before that in the shop, the record shop from Fly.
That was the Blitz record shop.
The Blitz record store, yeah, correct.
See, I've been doing my homework.
Yep.
This is such a cool track. It's did he ever clear the sample in this one?
No. This was never cleared. And actually, personally, in the beginning, I didn't even like it.
What, you didn't like the sample or the record?
No, I didn't like the record in the beginning.
Why?
It just took me a while before, or maybe because of the sample, I don't know.
Because it's very jagged. I mean, it's peculiar having a sample like that in the track, but I think that's the reason it stands out, right?
Yeah, it does. I mean, and there's similar tracks that we've released in the past. For example, DJ Looney Tune, Jumpin' and Pumpin', or Workstation, also both contain samples. They were also never cleared. But then you read afterwards, for example, Workstation contains a sample from Kraftwerk. And then you read an article and Kraftwerk says like, yeah, we know about all these remixes, but the ones we really find ourselves cool, we just let them go.
That's how it should be.
Yeah.
A lot of my tracks are just full of them, you know. But I think with samples, if you're creative, you know, if you do something creative with them rather than just using it as the single hook in your track, I think it's okay, right? Because otherwise modern dance music wouldn't exist.
True, yeah. It's all about the creativity, what you do with the sample. I mean, the beginning, the old M.I.K.E samplers where you had, 7 seconds to sample something with a really bad sound?
I've still got 2 of those upstairs.
Oh, you got them still?
Yeah, they don't work though. My son decided, my son kept pushing a spoon into the disk drive of the S3000 and he managed to break it. They're only 50 quid on eBay now, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is the original version of The Rebel from Yves, how do you say it? Yves Deruyter?
Yves Deruyter, yeah.
Yves Deruyter. This is The Rebel from Yves Deruyter on Bonzai from 1997.
Oh, the next one is an interesting one.
Yeah? Tell me about it. This is, well, you can introduce this one, actually.
Plastic Boy was a new project from M.I.K.E. Back in 1999.
Yeah.
And Twixt is actually a remix from another track. A remix that he had to do for another label.
Do you want to tell me this? Do you want to announce this on the radio now, or are you just going to leave it as another track?
No. The people can know. That's not a problem. It was a remix, but it didn't contain anything of the original.
Ah, okay.
And we said to Mike, like, listen, you can't send a track like that out when you don't use anything at all, not even as part of the melody, no samples, nothing. It's a completely new track. So that's why we released it as a new project from Mike, because that was a sound he didn't have yet at that point.
Did he actually do a remix of that track as well, or did he just not?
In the end, he did another remix, and that was then the remix that was released back then.
Yeah, this is such a good record. The original version of Twixt by M.I.K.E. under his Plastic Boy alias.
Pure Trance Radio with Solarstone.
Okay, this is Pure Trance 114, the Bonzai 25 special. I've got Bonzai. I've got Marnik from Bonzai here, having a little chat about the years of Bonzai, the last 25 years. The next one, now this is quite an important track for me because back in 1999, when I released my, biggest hit of the time, 7 Cities, Jerry from Hooge said, I want to get a V1 remix of this, and I didn't know who V1 was. And he had this amazing track, Dead Cities. And Jerry basically said to Laurent, can you just put the guitar from 7 Cities over the top and change the other notes, but don't change anything else at all?
Yeah.
And that's what he did, and it's such a brilliant track. But Dead Cities for me will always be a really, really special record. What memories does this track bring back for you, Marnik?
Oh, actually, this was one of the few releases we licensed in the UK. Hooge Tunes did release this in the UK, and I recall all the conversations with Jerry back then about how to do it, and then also about the remix, which was a different approach to do it, but yeah, it worked.
He used to say that to me. He'd say, I want you to do a remix of whatever, but don't change anything at all in the production. Just take out your melody and put their melody in. And I was like, you can't do that. But he was like, no, just do it. That's a remix. And it'll only take you an hour. And knowing how fast Laurent works, this remix probably took him like 10 minutes.
Well, not 10 minutes, but a couple of hours probably, yeah. But I mean, that was real A&Ring back then. Yeah. Back then, you would really take in a track and you had an idea, and then another result came out of it. I remember signing, for example, Sonic Inc., The Taste of Summer.
Yeah.
The original, in my opinion, was not really a very good track, but I heard something in it that was like, if this is combined with that, you get that result. And that's the Fire and Ice remix. And
that's a job. That's what an A&R man does. And so anybody listening, if you ever wonder what an A&R guy does, you're listening to see what you can bring to a project, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you try to explain an artist how to make it better, but that's a problem nowadays. I think some artists are a bit too snobby and don't really accept this guidance from an A&R who has a lot of experience usually.
Want to name any artists who... No, I'm only kidding. I agree with you exactly. It is quite difficult. But anyway, this is track number 10, the brilliant Dead Cities from V1. And this originally came out on Green Martian in 1999. Okay, so that was one of Laurent Airwave's finest moments, in my opinion. His track Dead Cities from Green Martian in 1999. Now, this next one, everybody knows this record. This is probably one of the defining records of the modern trance sound, I think. What do you think?
Most likely, yeah, definitely.
This is Strange World from Push. This is the 2000 remake. So when the hell did the track originally come out?
About 2 years earlier, when the Push album was released, From Beyond. That was one of the tracks, and this was a new version for the single.
I remember hearing this in Gatecrasher. And it was just like, why am I bothering at all to make music when there is music this good? I've never said that to Mike, but he probably knows now. But this is, I think this is one of the most perfect trance records. In fact, there's not really much else to say about it, so I'm just going to play it for you. This is Strange World from Push. Okay, next up we've got another track from Laurent, aka Airwave. This is under his Green Martian alias. Very, very dark and dirty track with a remix from the Space Brothers. When did the Space Brothers do this remix?
That's also about 2-3 years ago already.
Did you already send this out, or did you keep this? Because I've kind of got this sort of memory, maybe a fake memory of hearing this before.
He may have played it already out here and there a few times, but not so much now. And yeah, a different approach to a big classic, which became big because of Chesto. And actually a track that, if it were for Laurent, it never got released.
He didn't want to release it?
He didn't like it.
You kidding me?
He didn't like it. It was just hiding in a drawer on a DAT tape together with a few other classics he released afterwards. And I just picked those tracks out when he had a little bit of periods when he was less creative.
What, so you went around to his place and you just went through his studio looking for DAT tapes?
Well, back then we had 3 artist studios in the same building of the office. So there was M.I.K.E having a studio, there was Laurent having a studio, and some other guys were using a studio as well.
Wow.
So we would just walk down straight into the studio, listen to the music, give some ideas. And yeah, there was a period where he had less inspiration for some new music, and this was hiding on a tape.
That happens sometimes. What I love about this track is it's just so simple.
Yep.
You know, it's proper, like, it just keeps on going and going and going. And I think the Space Brothers did a brilliant job of this.
Definitely.
This is the Space Brothers mix of Industry from the Green Martian. Okay, so for the last almost 60 minutes, you've been listening to a special edition of Pure Trance Radio, celebrating 25 years of Bonzai records or Bonzai music. And joining me is M.I.K.E, one of the guys behind the whole, well, the Bonzai empire, I suppose you'd call it. Time for one more track. I remember hearing this track for the first time down at the Huge Tunes office when Jerry had the sub-label called Protocols.
Correct, yeah.
And this was actually on in the office when I went down there, and it sounded completely different to anything else I'd ever heard.
Yep.
I wasn't particularly up on this style of music. This must have been remixed how many times over the years?
Oh, about 25 times by now, I think.
About 25 times. And
yep.
From, well, I suppose you've enlisted the talents of another absolute legend of the trance scene. Yeah, Talla to XLC.
Yeah, we have a long relationship with Talla, actually, because he used to run Bonzai Germany.
Did he now?
Yes, he did, with his record label back then called Music Research.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So there's quite a few people with whom we have a long history.
Yeah, I mean, Talla he's one of the founding fathers, right?
Yeah, you could say that. He was one of the very first, I think, hard trance DJs from Germany. Yeah.
He's one of the masters of the wheels of steel.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so this is the last track that we're going to be playing in this special 25th edition of the show. M.I.K.E, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today.
You're welcome.
And all I really want to say to you is just keep on doing what you're doing, man, because if it wasn't for you, I don't think that trance would be anything like what it is now.
Well, there's only one person who's ever said that to me. That was Armin.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. But that was about, I think, 14 years ago.
Well, it's definitely a statement of fact. And guys, if you want to get your hands on a copy of the 25th anniversary compilation from Bonzai, available at all the usual stores, Beatport, iTunes, etc. And there's a limited, well, how limited is the CD? You've probably pressed about 1 million copies, I suppose.
The CD is actually only available in Benelux and a bit on exports.
Okay.
There's a digital version available as well. And to close off, we're going to give away one exclusive vinyl box of the 25 years release, which is a limited edition, numbered, sealed with 5 vinyls on it with remastered versions from the classics.
Okay, guys, if you want to be in with a chance to win that, just answer this question.
In what year was the first release released on Bonzai?
Okay, you heard that, guys. What year was the first release on Bonzai? Send your answer to info@puretrance.com, or actually, yeah, just send it to info@puretrance.com, because if you post it on Twitter or Facebook, everyone's going to copy it. So that question again, what was the first release on Bonzai? Send your answer to info@puretrance.com to be in with a chance to win this very, very limited edition 5 vinyl box set. Okay, thank you, M.I.K.E, once again. And this is the last track of the show, Talla to XLC on the mix of the first Rebirth from Jones and Stephenson.
with Solarstone.